Fuzzle.
Hey everybody,
Hey everyone, I'm Eric,
I'm Sean,
and this is
and we're Fuzzle.
this is episode 2 of the Fuzzlecast, and with us today is one of our nearest and dearest friends, Jimmy Brunetti. Say hey, Jimmy.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Yeah, and Jimmy's got a really cool background in music, so we thought we'd bring him on the show to talk to him, get to hear a little bit about his experience and his background, and get to know him a little bit. So, take it away.
What got you started in marketing, Jimmy? So what exactly do you do in marketing for music?
Yeah, so I've been marketing music since 2006, so I'm in my 16th year of doing it. The company I work for is based in Los Angeles. It's called Crochelle Entertainment Group, and it was started by my boss and mentor, Fred Crochelle, who was an executive at CBS Records and Sony Music and was the GM of Maverick Records before he started the company. And I was hired shortly after graduating from college, and the company had been in existence for about 3, 4 years. And we're basically a record label for hire. Artists and labels and artist managers, they come to us when they want to release music independently, but they don't really have they don't have the staff, they don't have the infrastructure to do so. So we get brought in and we roll out a record kind of like any major record label would. And in the course of my career, I've worked with dozens and dozens of artists. I've released dozens of records. I've probably sold personally a little over 3 million records in my career so far. We've
Those are
had,
numbers, man. Yeah.
yeah, it's been pretty cool.
And right behind you
But
is...
yeah, right behind me is the one gold record I have. I got it in 2007 for Elliot Yamin, who was a American Idol runner-up. And
Nice.
what was interesting about him was when you're on that show, you sign a contract with it's 19 Entertainment and I think it's Arista Records, where they have right of first refusal to manage
Hmm.
you and release your stuff.
That's
And
fun.
Elliot, they didn't opt in for him. They didn't.
Oh, really?
They let him go of all those obligations. So he and his manager and his publishing company, they recorded a record. They didn't have any way to release it, and so they hired our company to roll it out. And I think we did the project in like 2 months, 2.5 months. It was something crazy. And when it came out, uh, it went gold that year. But what was interesting about it too was it actually set a Billboard record at the time. It was the highest independent debut in the history of the chart in 2007. It debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 chart. It was my first official record. It was kind of crazy to hit a home run like first out of the gate.
Man, that's
Um,
a perfect storm of kind of factors coming together to make something like that happen.
yeah, it, it was kind of like getting thrown into the deep end for me. I
Hmm.
had been on the job for maybe 4 months before this thing came to us, and my boss was like, "All right, you're doing the marketing on this. We're going in." So we were photo shoots and music videos and radio promotion and a big publicity rollout. All of this in a short span of time, and it was absolutely crazy. But it was a lot of fun to just kind of kick off with that record.
Do you find that there's a lot of more artists that are, I guess that goes without saying, of course, there's a lot more independent artists right now, but has this been kind of the evolution of record industries, at least, that you've seen, if they're not major labels? Like, how do you see that whole climate and the way that big production record labels actually release for people?
Yeah, it's been going that direction for a while. When I first started, um, our company, we were one of the only ones doing this in the indie music world. There and probably a year or two in, There was another company, maybe, two other companies at the time, but it wasn't really a crowded field back then. But over the years, there's been more and more of these companies popping up doing what they call label services. We used to call it the virtual label years ago.
Hmm.
Now it's all label services. And what's happened in recent years, the music business is crazy. Literally every 2 to 3 years, things are drastically different. Um, but as things have consolidated, labels have shrunk the sizes of their staffs. They're focusing more on, especially when we're talking about major labels, they focus more on top 40 music. So it's, hip hop, it's pop, it's mainstream rock. Even rock is not as big as it used to be in terms of the label footprint now. But
Yeah.
because a lot of these labels have downsized and they've focused on only certain things, there's still a lot of other records where they want to put something out, and a lot of companies like ours, we get hired to do supplemental services for a lot of these labels. A good example is years ago, Seth MacFarlane, the guy who created Family Guy. He's a singer, um,
Hmm.
and he does kind of like that Frank Sinatra crooning style.
And Michael
He had
Buglay's. Hmm.
Yeah, he had he started recording some records, and there was a Christmas record in 2014, and it was on a label. Can't remember the exact label. It was a Sony label, but our company got hired to be supplemental marketing staff. So we worked hand in hand with the label on the rollout of the record, and we've done a handful of those types of projects over the years. What also happens is, a lot of artists are, they're leaving their record labels. Those contracts expire. They don't want to renew them. They've got control of their masters. They want to, they've got enough money and touring support to, fund their own way, and they want to start their own record label and put their stuff out independently. So more and more, we work with artists that, you know, they're like, hey, I want to make all the decisions. I want to be the record label, but I don't have any staff, so let's hire you guys.
Hmm.
And I've been doing helping with the day to day operations for record labels for people like Jackson Brown or Herb Alpert. Been working with those two guys for years, so that part of the business is constantly expanding. It's really interesting to see how that's changed over the years.
It really does show an evolution of the music industry. I mean, over the last 20 years, as we grew up with, different artists and different types of genres and just the evolution of different, I remember how many different cores we got, but there's got to be at least 15 to 20. It's kind of the same thing with synthwave. We're getting about like 15 different wave type of musics. But yeah, so have you kind of followed genres a lot, or have you kind of just always gone by, I guess, where the job kind of market is for you and what kind of music is whatever job you're in?
Yeah, it really is kind of like, whatever comes our way. When you're working in the business, you got to make a living. So I have worked, our company focuses more on rock and pop music, but I've worked EDM records, I've done country records, I have done, right now I'm working on a really interesting, like instrumental ambient electronic artist. Uh, so there's a whole gamut of stuff that I've dealt with over the years.
That's really cool too. And have you been a musician like first and foremost? How did you get into music in general?
Yeah, I started off playing guitar, me and my brother. I think I was about 10 years old when our parents bought us a couple of cheap guitars and signed us up for guitar lessons.
Hmm.
But I wanted to be a professional musician all through my teenage years and into early college. And when I was in Boston in college, my freshman year, I actually joined a band with some older guys who were in their 20s. I was their lead guitarist. And that kind of fell apart after about a year and a half. And I kind of got a little, tired of the whole band thing. And For a while, I didn't even really think about. I always had an interest in the music business, but for a while, I thought I was actually going to go into advertising. I thought I wanted to be like an ad creative, and
Hmm.
I ended up meeting the guy who would become my boss, um, probably sophomore year, I would say, and he gave me the opportunity to call him up and pick his brain. And I think somewhere like through the middle of my college, um, I decided that I wanted to actually be in the music business. So I started calling him up, periodically, and hey, what do you think of this? How do I get into this? Just asking him a bunch of questions and pestering him, and he. It must have stuck with him because when he was looking to hire somebody, that's how I got in. He called me up and was like, "Hey, and, have you found a job in the business yet?" And I was in Houston at the time, and I was trying to interview and I couldn't get anything, and I said no. And he goes, "Well, would you consider coming out to LA and working for me?" And I was like, "Yeah." So 3 weeks later, I was in LA, and
Yeah, you don't
it's
wait on
been,
that.
yeah. But yeah, I was musically inclined. In my 20s, I kind of went away from the guitar. I actually taught myself how to play the trumpet, um, poorly, but I
Hmm.
could still make a sound on it, and I could fiddle with an upright bass and stuff. My brother is also, he actually had a stint for several years. He made it as a professional musician. He played in the Austin music scene for multiple bands, and he ended up joining a band called Wild Child, and they signed a deal with was it Dual Tone Records, and toured the world and performed on television and released a record through that label, and it was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always good when family members have their projects that make it big. My little cousin's
Yeah.
got a pretty popular project called Sea Haven right now. They're big
Oh, it's
in
awesome.
Costa Rica. Yeah. So
Nice.
props to Kyle. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so what would you recommend? Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say my brother Drew is way more talented a musician than I ever was. So it was super fun to watch him kind of grow and start to catch some breaks. It was really
He's
neat.
a phenomenal drummer.
Excellent. Really? Yeah, I'll have to check out some clips after the cast. So,
Oh yeah.
um, I was going to ask you, what would you recommend then for people trying to break into a marketing scene? There's a lot of independent artists we see all the time in our indie music feedback discords that we do a lot. And everybody's just, there's a lot of noise. So how do we stay above the noise? What would you recommend to people?
It's yeah. I mean, that's the hardest thing right now is how do you break through. Um, if you are in a position to be a part of an active music scene in person, for example, taking my brother, Austin was a great secondary city. The primary cities in the music business obviously are LA, Nashville, New York. But a smaller market that has a great live scene. Uh, Drew was able to make a ton of connections. He toured with a ton of different bands, and a lot of opportunities came to him that way. So if that's feasible for somebody who wants to break into the business, I would recommend going to maybe a smaller city with a good scene to, get up in front of people, play live. I don't think it's funny. A lot of the developing artists that come to us that want to work with us, it's shocking how so many of them don't have any live chops whatsoever. Some of
Hmm.
them that we've talked to never played a gig in their lives, and getting up in front of people and learning how to play in front of an audience is, it's a skill that can't be substituted. Other than that, the internet has been fantastic for independent artists. It's a way for you to break through without any gatekeepers. You don't have to go to a radio, programming director. You don't have to try to appeal to a press outlet. You don't have to try and get a label deal. You can put your music out on Spotify independently now, and you can use things like YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, TikTok. And what I think is really important for a developing musician is when you're using those platforms, the primary thing that you should be doing is showcasing what makes you unique. And what the average person can't really do is play an instrument, write a song, perform something. Um, so if you are, making YouTube videos and you're focusing, like, first and foremost, you got to practice your craft. If you're going to play guitar, you need to be a good guitar player if you want to hope to have any kind of career in the music business. But when you're making content, focus on the music. Focus on doing videos where you're showing off your talent, where you're writing songs, where you're sharing, you know, clips or behind the scenes kinds of things about how you write a song or how you record a song. Those things are interesting to people that are interested in music, especially the people that don't have those skills or talents. Um, and consistency. You can't post every once in a while. If you look at, even beyond music, if you look at what somebody does on YouTube that's successful, they post regularly. They
Hmm.
post, it doesn't have to be daily, but it has to be, once a week, once or twice a week. And you have to kind of lay out a long trail of breadcrumbs to build up a profile online to where people can discover you. They can
Hmm.
discover more of your content, and that leads to the buildup of an audience over time. And it doesn't happen overnight. It can take a while. It can take years in some cases. Um, I mean, anybody that you've seen, even on a major label who's a big, star, big mainstream star right now, those people toiled for years before they got their big breaks. To the average person, it seems like there is such a thing as an overnight success, but that doesn't exist.
Something I want to call
Yeah.
out that you said about YouTube, I think that's really cool, and Jimmy, you and I have talked about this a bit too, is the concept of like you're producing all this content, but the shelf life of that content, especially on a platform like YouTube, is basically infinite. Like you never know when something might pop up in pop culture, or it could be an older video that finally gets picked up somewhere for some inexplicable reason from some algorithm or who knows what. And so it's not just you're producing content in the moment. It's like you're building your whole backlog of content that's, you know, kind of sitting alongside you on that path, the whole way.
That is how YouTube is a lot different. I think you're right. Yeah, because a lot of social media sites, it's there and then it's gone and the algorithm just takes it right away. You'll never find it again. But with YouTube, I'm always finding new artists and then back catalogs, like you said, are just so good on YouTube. They're just hours of fun.
Yeah, and it's very different from those other platforms where it's kind of like a news feed or a stream where, the new content buries the old. YouTube, it's like a bunch of landmines sitting out there just waiting to be discovered by people. And
Hmm.
I in terms of platforms for marketing, I would say YouTube is probably my favorite to try and stress with artists that we work with. Not everybody's good on camera. Um, not everybody's cut out for it. But for those that can do it, yeah, I'm the same way. I don't feel like I'm cut out for this stuff at all. Um, but if you can do it, uh, that's a great way to build up an audience. There's so many people that do really interesting, amazing things, and you know there are amazing musicians and amazing performers all over the world that you've never even heard of, never have been, they've never been signed to a label, probably never will, but they've got millions of followers and millions of views, and they have their own little career that they're in control of, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of doing that thing. We're just making as much content as possible and making taking chances and making how-to videos here and there. Um, but I mean, you've actually helped us out with a few of our videos too. Creature of the Corn is one that comes to mind. That was back a couple months ago. Jimmy actually wrote the whole story and theme to that song, and that's where the whole seed started with, was with I guess one of his poems about the creature of the corn.
Yeah, and a little a
Yeah,
little context for that is, you know, Jimmy's always been a huge fan of Halloween. So when Sean and I kicked around the idea of doing a song for Halloween, obviously the first person I thought of was Jimmy. And I know you'd written some short stories and other little things. Like you're very creatively inclined, so it was not a tough sell to be like, hey man, do you want to collaborate on something creative around Halloween? I was like, yep.
Yeah, I remember when you first started talking to me about it. I was out running errands or something, and you were texting me about, hey, we want to do a Halloween song. Do you want to help out with it? And I was like, yeah. So I remember we were bouncing some text back and forth where I was just coming up with all kinds of ideas. I was just anything that popped into my head. I was like, how about this?
Little
How about that? How
one-liners
about
of
this?
like, this is a theme, this is a theme. Yeah.
Yeah. And you liked I threw something out about a corn maze or something. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay. And I honestly, when I got home, I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm not a lyricist. Um, and then I thought, well, maybe I could just write a little poem and the guys could use that as a jumping off point. So I wrote something without any, there was, at the time I did this, there was no music to reference. There was nothing to go off of. So I just wrote a poem and I thought, okay, well, they can pull it apart or they can maybe use a line here or there as a refrain or something. And then when I sent it over to Eric and he showed it with Sean, I remember it was like a few days later, maybe a week later, you guys had come up with a rough track and Sean's vocals were on it. And I was like, oh my, they made it work. They took the poem, they actually made it fit in the song. It was the craziest thing because I didn't think it was really usable.
It was amazing too.
It
Yeah.
was
Go ahead.
great,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just those little bits and pieces, like for where somebody is really good at one thing, if they're able just to put that out and communicate that to a group of other people who have a talent in that other place that, that person may not be as confident in, then it just starts to soup up and become a fuzzle of goodness thing.
Yeah.
What I really like about you guys too is that from what I've seen, the way that you create, you're both very open, and there's not a lot of oh no, that sucks, no, that's not going to work. You guys really are kind of playful in the sense that somebody has an idea, hey, let's try it, let's throw this out there, let's see if it works, and it made the whole process really fun, especially after my part was done, to just kind of sit back and see like how you two collaborated and built on it. And then the end product was like so much better than I ever would have thought the poem could ever be. It was really cool.
It was really awesome. And
Yeah.
like, Sean even surprised me because he was like, all right, I'm just going to try and like sing this. And it was like literally the first scratch track. Because that's a big part of our process is like, we'll usually write the music first, then we'll kind of do some scratch vocals and just kind of get a semblance of a vocal melody. But he kind of just I don't want to say winged it, but like you literally were just like, all right, let's see what happens if we just kind of try and sing these, and it fell into place like perfectly. So I think we ended up using pretty much every single line or a modified version of every line to basically cover the verse, and the chorus, and then we kind of kept the story going kind of for the second part. But like your poem, which was like several stanzas or several kind of it just kind of came to life instantly, which was really, really cool.
And gelled, yeah.
Hmm.
And then we got the very talented Rebecca. What's her last name?
Rebecca
Why am I drawing
Sykes.
a blank right now? Sky Sykes, yes, doing the drums on there, and the
Hmm.
track just came together perfectly. Yes.
And then
Sorry, Rebecca.
yeah, and then the only thing that was missing was some cover artwork, which Jimmy is doing some amazing artwork. Like longtime comic book fan, so you've always been a fan of art, hand drawn artwork and stuff. So maybe speak a little bit about kind of how you've kind of gone on your artwork over the last few years, and a little bit about your experience with doing the cover artwork for Creature in the Corn.
Sure, yeah. So it's funny. I have always been interested in anything creative, and when I was really young, I was into comic books like most boys are, and I actually wanted to be either a cartoonist because I really like things like Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield and Doonesbury, or
Hmm.
I wanted to be a comic book artist. And then all of that went to the wayside when I discovered music and the guitar. And for literally 2 decades, I didn't even think about drawing. I didn't do it anymore. I didn't even, buy comic books. But then I kind of got back into it near the end of my 20s and was a little embarrassed about it. I kind of like sheepishly would like poke around a comic book store, and I started buying things up. And then, the Marvel movies, took off, and it was kind of like that kind of renewed the interest.
Then it was
And
okay to be into comics again. Yeah, you can
yeah,
say
it
it.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, it did. Seeing the stuff on the screen being as cool as it was, that kind of kicked up the interest. And yeah, the shame factor really went down when you realize like everybody's into it now.
Hmm.
And so I bought comic books again for years, and I'm really particular about the artwork. I only like to buy things where I really like the art. And after a little while, I hadn't been playing music. I didn't really have a hobby, and it kind of dawned on me like maybe I should try drawing again. I think that's why I'm so attracted to the comic books. So I've just been trying to learn how to properly draw. I'm really interested in drawing people. I like drawing bodies and faces. And again with the whole Creature of the Corn thing, after I did the lyrics for you guys or the poem, Eric was like, "Hey, would you want to do a cover?" And again, my initial reaction was like, "Yes, but oh God, I don't know if I can." I just and so I started doodling and coming up with ideas, and I think I did the cover within the span of like 5 hours, um, from initial sketches to inking it. And then I took
It's
a photo of
crazy.
it, I sent it to Eric, and then he colored it digitally for me, with a little bit of my input. And I look at it, with a critical eye. Like I see everything that's wrong with it. It is cool. It's not, it's not bad by any means, but I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it's just, it's not that good. But it was super cool, um, to like see some finished colored artwork that I had done, and that you guys actually liked it and wanted to use it. It was really, it just happened so fast. It was crazy.
We moved pretty fast, and I'll be honest. Both times when you first sent me the poem, so you were like, "All right, here's the theme, and I'll let you know what I think." And then I get a photo of a screen, like of a Word document, and you're like, "Here's the whole poem," and I was like, "All right." So my brain explodes the first time. I was like, "This is perfect." And then the artwork comes through again, and you're like, "All right, here's kind of the general idea that I'm thinking. It'll be a girl in the corn maze," and you kind of like loosely described it. I'm like, okay, and then it comes in. It's like, oh my god, this is amazing again. It's like I don't know, the process of just kind of seeing it come to life, and again, I think it was just like the holy trinity of like your interest in Halloween and comics and kind of some of like the classic horror and just I don't know the retro like it just all of it. It's I don't know like a good creative fusion kind of across things, finding some really awesome kind of common ground and bringing everyone together. Just outstanding.
The whole thing was a trip. It was really fun.
Love it.
Yeah, we loved it, man. We really appreciate
Yeah.
it, and we hope to do some more stuff with you too.
Yeah, Eric talked to me the other day about maybe trying to draw another cover for your Lakitu Party remix.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
I'm gonna
Yes.
try and put some ideas together. I think I can do something pretty cool for that.
We're excited.
Excellent.
Yeah, and you heard it here first. It's the next song coming down the pipeline. We're really excited.
Yeah, guys. Well, thanks a lot, Jimmy. We really appreciate this, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is great. I love talking to you guys. I've known Eric for a long time, and it's been great getting to know you too, Sean. And just the whole thing's been fun. I'm looking forward to doing anything you guys want me to help out with. I'm more than happy to.
Thanks, man.
It's great.
We'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thanks, man. All right. And for those of you listening at home, like, subscribe, follow, etc. And be sure to tune in for the next one soon.
We love you
All right.
guys. Take care.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.